So it's a secular person. I think that means like someone who just like doesn't have religion in their life.
Okay.
And they say, I want to do X.
Okay.
And the Christian says, you're free to do it.
Okay.
And then the secular person, but you think X is wrong.
Okay.
And then the Christian says, yes. And then the secular person says, because you want to control me. And the Christian says, no, you're free to do whatever you wish. And then the secular person says, but you think X is wrong. And then the Christian says, yes, but only because I want what's best for you. And then the secular person says, but I want to do X. And then the Christian says, you're free to do it. And then the secular person says, but I want you to say that X is good. And the Christian says, I can't say that. And then the secular person says, why are you such a hateful, intolerant bigot?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
It is, right?
It really is.
It's wild. I had Paige on here yesterday. I have not found God. I have not been asked to follow Christ. I have not been asked to, but I've been just so especially in these times, seen the value of flying with the Christian flock because so many of my values align with them. And just because I don't believe it, and I understand why people would think, hey, this is just Harry Potter land or it's just their imagination. But it's like, hey, the whole thing is just Harry Potter land and just imagination. Like, do you want to follow fucking Nancy Pelosi's values or do you want to follow the values of some Christians?
Right, man. It's crazy. It's crazy that he is so divisive, Christ.
Yeah.
When you know, it's exactly what you just read, but you could almost put that logic to a lot of different people, you know, like everybody, just because you don't agree with somebody, as long as I'm not forcing it on you, then
yeah,
you know, like it's hard, man. It's
like,
it's
let's use something like there's no do Christians don't think that you should be gay. Is that in the Bible somewhere?
You know, there are verses that support that for sure. But here's the deal:
but you have no issue. You would have gay friends in a second, right? You have no issues with that at all, right?
Well, here's what my mom has always said is love the person. You don't have to agree with the sin or whatever they're doing in their life. There's, you know, at times I have jealousy issues. At times I have pride issues.
With Hillary, like looking too long at other guys, like you ever get jealous of Hillary? You make eye contact with Jake Locker.
Knock it off. Like, hey. Yeah, knock it off. You know, and so we're not perfect, and that's the need for Christ, right? And that's the need for, and why I lean into the relationship side of it versus the religious side of it, of all the rules and stuff. Yeah.
What does that mean? The relationship side. What does that mean?
Like, you know, the prayer side of it. You know, I believe in Jesus, and I believe in the Holy Spirit, and I believe in God, and I lean into that and try to pursue that every day and try to have a relationship where open line of communication and confess those things that I feel like are, you know, if you're a jealous person, if you have pride, if you have these different things, you're not getting the most out of your life, right? And so that's the way I try to connect. We're going deep this morning. We started like straight up this morning, huh?
Wad Zombie, Angelo isn't gay?
Jury's out.
And also Rich is jealous that he's of his
I'm jealous. You know, and my pride gets the best of me with Angelo too. You know, it is what it is.
I saw a comment on YouTube that said, hey, stop with I had Paige on here yesterday.
Yep.
And she had a lot of times when people talk about God, it doesn't sound like they don't seem like very sober takes. Sometimes, like, especially when I hear it from the athletes, it feels more like mental illness than like searching for just like a healthy grounding. But when I heard Paige talk about it, it sounded like a healthy grounding. Like, hey, I'm just recalibrating on what makes me feel whole.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this opportunity of not making it to sort of recalibrate, readjust my focus and get realigned. But someone from in the comments wrote, "Hey, I'm from Europe and stop the God babble." And I was just, it bores us.
Or
And
just then stop listening to the podcast. If you're watching a podcast on somebody and that's what they believe in and how they feel, then let them they're not trying to force it on you. If you're the one asking the questions, it's your podcast. You do what you want, you know?
I agree with that. But in the last 5 years of my life, I found this just immense value for Christians in terms of like, just look at Western civilization of all the countries you'd want to live in. You don't want to live in any of the ones that don't have Christianity as their foundation.
Or weren't founded on Christianity. You know, I would say there's a move away in every country from Christianity, and you know, but
you don't want to live in one of the Islamic countries, though. Their values have made some really uncomfortable for people. And look at the godless countries, they basically countries that are godless. Those people don't have rights because the Christians are holding down the unalienable rights for us. The shit that lets us have the gay pride parade and party and not kill gays. We need the Christians in order to do the naked parties in the streets of San Francisco. Like, why not see the utility in them and just roll with it?
Well, what I would say is, and this has not been the case throughout history, there's been radical sects, not sex, S-E-S, of Christianity that have done really bad things. But, you know, for the most part, man, it's tough. Anytime you get into any of that stuff, there's so much just kind of warfare of words and twists and all that type of stuff. And I mean, you know, it's well documented that I'm a American history nerd, and I'm moving along in biographies. And so, you know, there was definitely some Christian foundations, but hey, what did we say too is religious freedom and separation of church and state. But there's still that foundation of Christianity in it, you know? So it's tough. A lot of layers, man. And that's the hard part.
And would you say that, I guess the word religion also would need to be defined, but it seems like a lot of people, their religion, they think that they don't have. I think everyone has religion, just like
some form.
Just like you get horny or you get hungry, or you get sleepy, right? These are like things that, like, as human beings,
biologically, yep,
everyone has those. I think everyone has religion too, and but no one would deny that they're hungry or horny or sleepy. That those are, I think we could agree 100% that all human beings experience those. But for some reason, some people deny the fact that they have a religion bucket that's just tantamount to those three, and they fill it with pseudoscience or science, or they put something in that bucket, but they refuse to call it their religion. But I really think it is their religion.
Yeah, I think
Dr. Fauci's their head priest. I mean that. I'm not
what religion. What religion was that? Is that Fauciism, or is that
that's like TVism or something?
Vaccinism, or
it's just whatever the TV tells you. They're taking their higher order power from
science or from I mean, I don't know the actual definition of religion, but it's a set of rules that people live by, is what I would think, right? And so you're going to fall into some type of religion. Even if you don't believe in a higher power, you're still going to believe in something, right? You're going to believe in that there is no thing. That's from you. Thank you. I listen to that podcast. Or you're going to be an atheist,
how I keep it. By the way, that's how I keep the bucket open, by the way. No thing.
That wasn't a jab. That was a joke.
Yeah.
That wasn't a jab.
I didn't take it as one. I think God fits nicely. I think the Christian God fits nicely in no thing. Like, I was reading the 10 Commandments yesterday with Paige, and she said something along the lines of, or we pulled them up, and it's like, hey, you're not supposed to have an image of me. And that's no thing. You know, that's
no thing.
Yeah, that's no thing.
Yeah, because then the idea is that you would start worshiping that idol, and that's not what God looks like, because we don't know what God looks like, right?
Right.
I mean, God looks like everything, technically.
Or you don't know how God works.
Right. Yeah, and we don't. And that's the hard part, is when you try to how does a good God let bad things happen? And how do bad people get ahead when good people don't? And that's the hard part, and that's when you really dive deep into the Bible, into Scripture, and try to. And here's the deal: is that's still our human minds trying to put what we think onto something that we don't understand. That's the hard part. And that's why I feel like the Bible is so important, and getting in the Word every day and trying to, we're never going to figure it out, right? And even having doubts about some of it isn't a bad thing, right? You've got to lean into that and try to figure that out.
Especially if it inspires you to do that. You're not going to like this next comment. Stephen Flores, God looks like Rich. He's beautiful.
No.
There's this, and by the way, that question is like a false question. By the way, that one that people ask, why does God let bad things happen? Another problem, the guy who taught me the no thing idea is this. Also said that human beings have no idea what good is, and he tells the story about someone who there's a snail crossing the sidewalk, and so it doesn't get stepped on. Someone picks it up and sets it in the bushes. Well, the bushes he sets it in was an area that some gardener had just snail baited, and he killed the snail. So in the guise of doing something good, he kills the snail. And I think I think that's like, we see that happening all over the planet now. People think that they know what good is, and people get hurt.
Yeah, and I would, my thought process is, God gave us this world, right? Gave us free will and all this stuff. And if you go back in the beginning of the Bible and Adam and Eve, we gave up our rights to the world to Satan. And now we live on a fallen world. And that's the need for Jesus. And, we're getting real high level now, but that's in very simple terms. That's what I believe happened.
I was on the phone with Dave yesterday.
The Castro?
Yeah, the Dave Castro. And I said, I said, you made it through the Old Testament? He said, yeah. And he said, now I'm at the good part. I said, what's the good part? He said, all the Jesus
The good
parts.
news, man. Yeah.
He said, all the Jesus parts are good. I'm like, you like him? He's all, oh, yeah, it's the best part.
He's
Jesus.
good, man. I listened to something this morning about Psalm 110, and it kind of talks about different things, but the commentator that I was listening to was talking about Jesus, and we see that Jesus as this like kind of weak, soft dude, and man, he was not. Jesus was awesome and is awesome and was aggressive. Flips over tables and chases people out with whips,
It's this one? Psalm 110?
Psalm 110, but the commentator I listened to was just going back and talking about how it's quoted so many times in the New Testament, and basically talks about Jesus in there.
Here's a part that sounds pretty aggressive. The Lord is your right hand. He will crush kings on the day of his wrath. He will judge the nations, heaping up the dead and crushing the rulers of the whole earth. He will drink from a brook along the way, and so he will lift his head high. Yeah, that touches to my hippie roots. He'll drink from the brook.
There you go. Peace and prosperity from the brook.
I just don't understand. I guess I do understand because I used to be there, but my life is so much more fulfilling now that I don't look at Christianity as something like to always
take over.
Just don't be defensive of it.
Yeah.
See its value. You know what I mean? See its value in for civilization as a tool.
Love God, love people, man.